Do you need encouragement to turn tragedies into your own triumphant life story? If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Purdue.
Hey, it's that time again for us to get all started, get fired, to get some education, get some learning, get some help, get some where we're struggling. Just have someone, that's going to get on here and tell us how to overcome some of our challenges in life. We all go through something at some time or another, and it seems like life comes back and kicks us in the teeth again. So let's take some knowledge, some inspiration, some motivation, encouragement, and then share it with other people down the line. Pay it forward is what they say, right? And so that way, maybe when it's our time to move on, that we have made the little world around us a little better than when we came in. All right. So today, our guest today, she's going to talk about she had suffered from limiting self-belief and self-confidence. Okay, so that's a little story in itself. But on top of that, later on, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And shortly after her first chemo, appendicitis, had to go in for surgery. Well, see, what I tell you, life comes around and kicks you in the teeth when you least expect it. The breast cancer is bad enough as it is. And then appendicitis hits. Wow. All right. Now, she has come through all of this, and she has got it to the other side. And now her main objective is to help people. All right. And the most valuable lesson she learned that she has to start living the life that she wants now. So welcome to the show, Louise McMilan.
Hi, thank you ever so much for inviting me on your show.
Oh, no, thank you. I'm glad you're here. That way we can, help other people.
Absolutely.
They say all this stuff's going to be on the internet forever and a day, they say. So just think in 100 years from now, someone's going to find this and you're going to fire them up and inspire them.
Yes, let's hope so.
So that's it. Provide that little piece of hope, a little nugget, and then, it can just go from there.
Absolutely.
So, all right, Louise. So what I do normally is I tell people I'm just providing a platform. So it's your story, and I'll chime in with my little 2 cents every now and again. And of course, with inflation, I don't know how's the inflation over there in your part of the world, but with inflation here, my 2 cents is really a nickel's worth, but still it's only valuable for 2 cents. So
yeah, let's not go there without what's happening over here.
Oh, I hear you. All right. So yeah, you're on the other side of what they say. On the other side of the pond is what they say. So,
Absolutely.
All right. Well, appreciate you being here and again sharing your valuable time. And Louise, take off with it.
Okay. So I suppose as you quite rightly said at the beginning, I suffered from limiting belief and lack of self-confidence. And that actually impinged on me for most of my life. So growing up, I was kind of always a little bit kind of not wary, but always very self-conscious about what I did and who I spent time with and other people's opinions. I think it was just the way we were just brought up in the UK. And so therefore, I never really knew who I was because I'm the middle child as well. So I wasn't the first to do anything and I wasn't the last to do anything. So knowing where I was and where I fitted in was quite hard. And I do know, because we've looked at it, that from an early age, I would suffer from seasonal affective disorder. So coming around this time of the year, I wasn't very much playing outside with my siblings and the neighbours' children in our little cul-de-sac. I was very much, I'd rather be sat inside reading a book or something. So we kind of knew that in the winter, my whole kind of mood, I suppose, and everything else was different. But as I got older, that whole limiting self-belief and lack of self-confidence really did impinge me. I never felt that what I did was good enough. I never felt that I would be able to achieve the things I wanted to achieve in life. When I kind of used to say what my ambitions were, whether that was at school or college or even the beginning bit of my working life, someone always had some kind of flippant comments that would be made. And as always, what you do is if you hear something said a number of times, you tend to believe it. And of course, it doesn't matter how many people say really positive things. If someone says one thing negative and someone kind of goes, yeah, I agree, or it's said again, you kind of start believing that.
Yeah, isn't it amazing that we get to be so hard and critical on ourselves as well? But then when someone else makes the comment that we're already believing anyway, all it is verifying what we believe we're thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course, what we learn now as we get older, it's just the world according to them. It doesn't mean it's right. And it's their viewpoint. We all have a different view based on our own experiences. But you don't know that when you're younger, and you feel that everybody else knows best, especially adults. And when sort of nitpicking and comments come from all different places, it is quite hard. And so I suppose in my 20s, very much with my friends, you always go out partying, that kind of thing was just happening naturally. But obviously, I never felt that I was dressed right. I never felt that I was funny enough, never felt that I was pretty enough compared to them. And therefore, you kind of always were kind of self-conscious. And it also then impacted then on my professional career as a human resources professional. I was qualified. I did my professional qualifications. But I was just waiting for someone to pick me up on perhaps the fact that I was faking it, because sometimes it just felt natural thing that you would do. It felt obvious. It was kind of common sense. So I was excelling quite well, but I was like, me becoming this, that they're going to find out soon. And then, of course, with all the pressures of that with HR, burnout, I was then spiraling in and out of depression, anxiety rising, and just really just didn't believe in myself. And it impacted more and more on my personal life. That for, I would say, most of my 30s, I worked. I very much didn't socialize as much. And I would say I would go out with friends, but then I would cancel because I would start overthinking. And then, just used to spiral in and out of depression every so many years. Used to think I was getting better, but little things just would trigger off. Even things such as spiders. I know it sounds silly, but it's not. For me, I have a real bad phobia about spiders. And if I had one in my home and I didn't deal with it very well, then I would start spiraling on. I'm absolutely useless. It's only a spider, the size of comparison. But it would just trigger, especially if I wasn't in a good place and didn't manage it very well for myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the key point. When we get what they say here in the southern part of the states, when we get lower than a snake's belly, and then we start believing, it's amazing how we will believe the nonsense, the negative. And then when someone will give us a compliment or tell us the truth, we're going, oh, no, it ain't me. No, I know what you're talking about. It's just amazing how our mind works like that. And we have to fight real hard to get out of that. And like you said, a lot of people have a hard time recognizing or want to recognize. They just still want to believe what that inner voice is telling them.
Absolutely. Because when someone says something nice, you then start thinking, what are you up to?
What do you want?
Are you pulling my leg? Are you trying to help me fail? It's surprising how that inner voice, that inner chatter.
Yeah, what do you want? $20? What do you want?
Yeah, it starts looking things round. And I guess it's the TV programs we watch as well. But again, there are unfortunately people like that will have done things like that to have, sweet talk someone to do something. So you can't always be too sure.
So what did you eventually, did you seek some counseling? Did you finally just wake up and go, damn it, I'm better than I'm giving myself credit for? Or again, did you seek counseling, talking to people?
Yeah. So I had some cognitive behavioral therapy, which did help. And it's one of those things where you have to keep practicing what it is, the tools and everything. And I'd have times when I'd be really good. There'd be a couple of years where I'd be like, oh, right, this is great. And then there'd be certain times where I wasn't aware of how I was feeling and I would spiral back down. So in probably coming up to about October time, about 2016, I had been working a lot. I was working for somewhere I really loved working, but I basically was burnt out. Hadn't realized how much burnt out that I was. And so therefore, I call it Tina. No offense to anybody called Tina, but my inner voice is called Tina. I have to name it. It's shortened for creatina. So I call it Tina. And so of course she was taking over my head and my thought process, and I wasn't conscious that it was happening, and therefore it was getting worse. And so I ended 2016 in a really, really bad place of depression. The only people that I could tell at that time was probably one close friend and my mum. And then we couldn't even share that with the wider family because they just, sometimes they wouldn't get it. You know, we didn't talk, even back in 2016, we didn't really talk about mental health, mental well-being, you know, depression. You know, if you did, it was kind of little bits, but everybody
it's taboo.
It, absolutely. And if they
it's
did,
taboo because people just don't want to do it. They don't want to believe it. And here in the States, we're recognizing how big of a problem we're having with crime from people that's mentally ill. And some of it, not all of it, some of it is they're just trying to survive. You know, they're going and stealing food or whatever from a store or whatever it is, and then getting hurt or killed because people don't understand the mentality. But don't get me wrong, there's some of them just evil.
Not very nice people.
You're just evil. But also a part of it is they're probably mentally unbalanced, but they're doing more severe things and like it too. But here it's taboo. And I went through a severe depression and attempted suicide 3 times in 3 days. That's how bad I wanted out. And what I've come to learn, when I was growing up, we were told growing up, I don't know if I was told, but it was understood that if you talk to some psychologist or psychiatrist, people labeled you as crazy. He's crazy. He's having to talk to a psychiatrist. And so I bottled up everything as well until I attempted suicide. And again, 3 times in 3 days, how bad I wanted out. And of course, when you live through a suicide attempt, they make you see a psychiatrist or a psychologist. And what I've learned from there is far from being crazy. I mean, what I've experienced, I tell people, we exercise our body because we want to be physically fit as much as possible. Whereas we need to also mentally exercise our mind, clean out that garbage, talk to someone that we can open up honestly to. And so, you know, it's if you're not exercising your mind and body only, you're only doing, again, half the work.
Absolutely. And it's all like rest as well. You know, your body's aching, it needs a rest. You need to let your brain do that as well. And we're not very good, I would say, now that we would sort of probably 40 years ago, even more, where we used to have more time to rest. Everything is on the go all the time. So I think that's why we don't allow ourselves to stop and rest like we would have done 40 years ago.
Sad thing is, supposedly all this technology stuff today, when it was first coming, was supposed to make it easier on us. And that way we have more time to go out and do things. But what do? It made it easier on us. And then we figure out a way we abuse it and use it more than we should, really.
Absolutely.
So, and that's just our nature. We just overdo things. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. And then we need to spend more time doing the other things and turning technology off. But then if we didn't have technology, we wouldn't be speaking now from across the pond.
Hey, so. I'm thankful. I'm in a wheelchair. I got my neck broke playing football. And actually this weekend to be my 39-year anniversary. And so I'm thankful that technology has gotten where it's at. Because after my suicide attempt, my psychologist, he said, hey, you got a story to tell. You've lived through this. You got to tell about how you got in a wheelchair and everything. And he's the one who encouraged me to write my first book. And now I have 10 of them out there, and eventually start a YouTube channel, and then eventually a podcast. So I'm glad for this, because again, this gives me a different platform, not to push me out anymore, but to give you and others, or at least one other platform that y'all can get your story out to help people.
Yeah.
So, all right, now, so going through your depression, when was it the breast cancer took place? And did that make you go down the rabbit hole even further?
Oh, actually, no. Well, no, it was, I was coming out of the depression.
Okay.
So I had the depression in end of 2016. And so 2017 was all about repairing myself, basically. And I'd had that conversation, blunt conversation. I don't think my mum picked up on it actually at the time, what my actual words were. But I did say to her, I can't keep doing this because I've got to change something. Because otherwise, what is the point of me being here?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the key words were, what is the point of me being here? So I wasn't saying I was suicidal, but I was actually thinking along the lines of, what's the point?
Yes.
And so I basically was, right, let's just take each little step at a time in 2017 to build myself up. And my contract had ended because it was a fixed term contract. And so I thought, right, let's just get to the end of that and then find a new job. And it was during that time that I noticed a discharge on my left breast. And it happened a few times. So in the mornings, it was on my pajama tops and it was like a dry, wet mark. So a bit strange.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went and saw my GP and who examined me and said, I don't think there's anything untoward. However, I'll refer you to be on the safe side. So I went off to the hospital, had an examination by a consultant who again said, I don't think there's anything untoward, but we'll refer you to be on the safe side. And now we're talking sort of end of May now, as times appointments coming through. And so I had an ultrasound. I had a mammogram, first of all. And then I had an ultrasound and they examined me and said they thought there was something on my right breast. And I said, it's my left that I've got a concern with. So bless them, they did it all over again, went, oh no, there's something here on your right, and did a biopsy. Now I came out of there not thinking anything at all. Chatted my mum because she came to the hospital with me. And so we didn't think anything of it. Thought perhaps it might have been a cyst that is quite common, but it's nothing, nothing aggressive like cancer. And it literally was the following week. I had not long started my new job. So I think I might have been about week 3 or week 4 of this new job. And I had a phone call to say they had a cancellation at the hospital. Could I pop in? So I did in the afternoon. And that's when they told me they found cancer in my right breast. So I didn't find a lump. The GP didn't find a lump. The consultant didn't find a lump. And so therefore, if they hadn't done the tests, it wouldn't have been found. So thankfully, they did the tests to be on the safe side. And that's when they found it.
All right, now I got a question here. So what was the discharge on your left breast? I mean, because thankfully that happened for you to go get started, with the other test and diagnosis.
We don't know. It stopped. And literally, and I didn't say it happened twice. I'm not one of those. It happened a few times, probably about 4 or 5 times for me to go, this is a bit strange, this. I need to go and get it checked. So, it was, and I suppose because at that particular time, I was just in between the jobs. So I was off work, meant that, of course, you made the appointment straight away rather than making it 4 weeks down the line or, 8 months down the line when you're at work. So, and I obviously, because that way, then I was seen quite quick by my GP, had appointment, I think, the same day. So we don't know. It just stopped. After that, it just stopped. It was my left breast was trying to say there's something wrong with your right and it can't tell you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. That's incredible.
Absolutely. And they thought that the cyst was 25 millimeters and stage 2. So the following week they did a lumpectomy. And the consultant who did the surgery said, as soon as I opened you up, I knew it was bigger. It was actually 45 millimeters.
Wow. Okay.
Not 25. They removed 3 lymph nodes and 2 lymph nodes tested positive for cancer. And I named them as I name everything. So I named my cancer Stan when we got told. And I named the other 2 Cyril and Sydney. I was trying to find names that was no names in the family, if you know what I mean, or anyone close to me. So, and so that meant that I had to go down the chemotherapy route because obviously it was in my lymph nodes.
Okay, wow. I'm just still, just put back, I guess, that your body was telling you something. And again, and how many other people ignore that? They're going, oh, that doesn't look serious. Yeah, I discharged, but that doesn't see. But I had someone else tell me a similar story, and somewhere in their body something was going. I forgot exactly right now, but somewhere in their body wasn't right, and then they found in another part of their body cancer.
Yeah,
And so if they wouldn't have gone and got checked in that one area, they wouldn't have found that spot either. And so it's amazing. Yeah, we've got to listen to our bodies. I've two other guests I've had before, and they made basically the same statement. And the statement is pretty much is, and this is a shame that the statement is, you need to know your body better than your doctor does.
absolutely.
How many times people go and doctor says I'm good, all right, yay, and then what they say? I don't know. He just told me I'm good, and they don't know anything else. And yeah, that we need to know our body, and we know it that well. We can tell the doctor, no, that can't be right. We need to get a second opinion. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
you know your body. And I always say to people, if you go to the doctor and they say, oh no, it's nothing, but still you kind of think there's something wrong, then go and see somebody else. Go back and query it and just say, look, you just got to get it checked. I mean, I know it's different people in different countries because of costs and everything. And we're very lucky that we have a national health service, which obviously we pay for, but we don't have to worry about keep going and paying each time. But
yeah.
I think you've only got one life and you've only got one body. And if your body is telling you and you know that gut feeling, then just go and get it checked out, and be perseverance.
Yes,
As you're
yes.
saying, to say,
Hey,
make sure you get
perseverance. That's right. It's in the title up here. Professor of
So
Perseverance. There we go.
you.
So
Yeah.
I told somebody else I need to get a bell or something when someone says perseverance. Ding, 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 ding. Yay!
Yeah,
I haven't
absolutely.
done it yet. I got to wake up and go do that one day. So all right, but all right now. So now you're going to go get your chemo and everything. And first round, all of a sudden you're going. Am I supposed to feel like this doing chemo?
Absolutely. I had my chemo and it was a week later. Maybe not even a week later. It was a Friday. Yeah, so probably Wednesday, I think it was
Uh-huh.
afterwards. So a couple of
Mm-hmm.
days afterwards, I started getting this stomach ache. And first of all, I thought perhaps it might have been something I'd eaten, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it carried on and it was getting progressively worse. And then during this time, I had to have a CT scan. So I had this big fluid drink thing to
Oh
drink down
yeah.
to have the CT scan.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept saying, oh, it doesn't feel right. And on one Sunday, I was at home. On my own, because I live on my own. And so I just happened to say to my mum, I'm not coming up for Sunday lunch. I don't feel great. I'm just going to have a day at home. And I'd fallen asleep on the settee and I'd woken up and I'd gone to the bathroom and I came back down and all of a sudden my body went into shakes and I was in absolute agony. And I phoned my next door neighbour who'd just gone out because I just opened the front door. They'd gone out. So I phoned my mum. And she came down with one of my nephews who was visiting and picked me up. And she said, it's probably the side effects from the chemo. Your temperature's not high. So let's just come home and we'll monitor it. And we did for another week. So I'm there going in absolute agony. So I go a whole week with this thing happening. And then on the Monday, I'm driving to work and I'm a couple of junctions down on the motorway when something says to me in my head, my body, I hear someone saying or feeling someone say, go home. So I got to the motorway, I turned around, I went back home. So I'm literally about half an hour away from home. Went to see my GP. So I got an appointment when I got in, saw the same GP, and she said, oh, your tests have come back clear for cancer, which is great news. If you'd come to me with just this, I would have said it was appendicitis. I'm going to admit you straight to hospital. I want you to go straight down. So I went straight down, saw the original consultant that I originally saw. He did some more tests. He gave me another CT scan. And I'll never, ever forget his words. He came back and he said, you are a very, very poorly young lady. You are not at all well. Your appendix have burst. They're now in an abscess, which is stuck to your bowel and your colon. I'm going to try and do keyhole. But if I can't, then I'm going to have to open you up. You need to stop drinking because at this point I am absolutely dehydrated. I can't get water down me fast enough. But he's telling me you've got to stop drinking because otherwise I can't operate. Had a very, very painful night. And then the next day they took me down into theatre. He tried to do keyholes, which I try to say I got my belly dimples.
Mm-hmm.
But he ended up having to open me up. So I've got a scar from the top of my belly button to the top of my bikini line.
Uh-huh.
So about a 6-inch scar. And he had to obviously remove that abscess, remove some of my colon and some of my bowel. And so therefore I was in intensive care 48 hours. By this time, my hair is falling out. I had it cut quite short, but it is now all falling out. I'm having a blood transfusion, and I'm in intensive care for 48 hours before they admit me to a ward, which I did the night before my 45th birthday. So
there you go.
Being in hospital for my birthday on my bucket list just so I could tick it off. But so yes, I was then in hospital for about 2 weeks, recovering from this surgery. I had a PICC line in my arm obviously for the chemo. So, and of course, because I had my lymph nodes removed, they can't do anything on this arm. So I've got lots of, as you know, when you're in hospital, you've got cannulas on your hand, in my arm. They can only take blood from my PICC line. So it's all kind of confusing. And then a week later, I had an infection in my wound. So it was all red, it was all swollen, it was all hot, and they had to reopen me up in the ward. And they got me a vacuum pack, so this machine, so they could put it on me, which got all the infection out of my wound. But I had an open wound, which was about 5 centimeters long, a couple of centimeters wide, a couple of centimeters deep.
Wow. Now, how is your mindset going on this? Because again, you were in a severe depression. You were working your way out. Then, oh no, I got this drainage, cancer. What are you talking about? And then the chemo, and you go, well, the side effects is leaving me some pain, but I'll get through it. And then it's appendicitis, and now the wound thing going. So, I mean, how is your mindset? Because again, you already had your low self-esteem and low confidence and stuff. So are you going, what in the world can happen now? Or are you trying to fight it the best you can?
It was the whole thing about cancer. It took me a couple of days to really get my head around it. I mean, literally the day after, I still went to work.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I went, I was due to go up north in the UK with a colleague to look around some our other locations. And I still went because I still needed a sense of normality. Although we talked about it, and that colleague has become a very good friend now, because of course I didn't know her very well, but she listened. We talked, we didn't talk about it. I just needed to carry on as normal because I just needed to get my head around it. It was a couple of days later when I had a pre-op and I'd seen the McMilan nurse. McMilan is a cancer charity we have over here in the UK. And they have nurses that specialise in cancer. And I had a chat with her. And I had a few moments where I actually told my parents I was going back to work. I didn't. I went to see another friend, a very close friend, but I had a time in between where I just went and sat on the seafront where I lived. And I would just get my head around it. And it just hit me that I don't want to die. I want to live. And it was that kind of moment where I thought, I've gone through so much. This is telling me that I've got so much more to give. And then everything else that just came pounding on, it just, I just kind of got on with it. But the big thing, the big learning for me was the day before I got my my cancer results, my day after I got my lumpectomy results, the day before, ironically, I was at the hairdresser's. I say ironically because obviously I was going to lose it, but I was at the hairdresser's. I was telling my hairdresser, and all of a sudden I said, this is the last time you're going to cut my hair. And she's like, oh, don't be silly. You don't know that. It's going to be fine. I went, no. I said, this is the last time. I've just got this gut feeling. And the day when we were waiting for results, I had this thing where I had to tell my mum this. And I just said to her, we're going to get through this. Whatever happens next, we're going to get through this. I'm going to fight it. It's going to be fine. And she was like, you've been so positive. What you're talking about? And so then when they told me that I was going to have chemotherapy, I was fine. I knew. And I just said to them, I knew. I trusted my gut instinct. And so therefore, everything that came to me, I was just listening to my gut. And it was saying to me, it's going to be fine. And so I just went, right, it's going to be fine. And that's what my head thought was. That's what I went with. And the appendicitis, it was like I suppose the universe and my body saying to me, if you didn't know, Louise, this cancer hasn't told you that you are meant to be here. You're meant to be helping people. This is where you're supposed to be. We're going to throw you this appendicitis now, just to make sure you got the message clear that you are here to make a difference. And that is where I went along. So everything that happened next, the chemo was delayed, and just going through, I just kept looking at it going, it's going to be fine. It's all going to get through this. And I was trying to find every step. I was like, what's the lesson here? How is this going to change me? And the other big thing was that all the nitpicking, all the snide comments that I got from people around me, so family, friends, people can just make comments every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
They stopped. I had not one bad comment said to me at all. And it was like, if I'm too poorly in your mind that you don't think what you're saying to me is nice enough, you have no right to say it to me when I'm better.
Yes.
And therefore, I don't have the right to let my head take that message and feed off it.
Exactly.
So I'm now choosing what I'm telling myself and how I'm taking on those comments. It's really hard to describe, because when we think of cancer, we think of it being really bad. But I actually say that I'm grateful I had cancer, because it made me learn about myself. I know how resilient I am. I know how strong my pain threshold is, because that's what people said to me when I had stomachache, because I haven't had children. Well, you don't know your pain threshold. Mm-hmm. It was like, stop dismissing me. I now know what my pain threshold is, and I know how strong I am. I know I'm liked for being me, because I had cards and messages from ex-work colleagues I hadn't even seen for about 10 years. They just heard through the grapevine. And the amount of support I had was lovely. And it's something I kind of say now about mental health is we have all that support when you have someone going through cancer. Unfortunately, the support's not always there, because whilst I would have liked to have said, I no longer have to manage my mental health. And I did say that I wasn't going to let my mental health impact me. It still does. I'm still a work in progress with that.
Yeah, that's a continuous fight.
Absolutely. Every day I have to think about what is going on in my head, what my inner voice is saying, and where it's impacting on me. And I will admit, there's times when I've not been great, and I'm pulling myself back out of this. I can see the depression spiral, and I'm at the top, and I can see that if I don't sort myself out now, I'll spiral back into it again.
Yeah. It's amazing how the I don't know, life will put us into a dog fight. Here you are with the cancer, the appendicitis, and everything else, and you're probably thinking, what else is going to happen here? But like you said, you're glad you were put into this fight, because again, it shows you how strong you are, and shows you how much you really want to live now.
Absolutely.
And so I'm wondering, you said no more of those little snide comments. I'm wondering how many may have said it, but you just purposely blocked it out and didn't pay attention because you've beat so much. I mean, they may have said it. You know what I'm saying? They may have said it, and then you're not even paying attention to it anymore, because you know how you truly are now.
Absolutely. And also, I think when I'm going through cancer, it's like I'm just concentrating on this. I don't care what else is going on. If there's arguments and things going on, when people have a bit of a disagreement, I used to say, sorry, I'm off. And I was just used to go off, because and of course people would say, well, let her, because she's going through enough. But now I'm like, no, I'm going off. I'm not having, life's too short to get involved with all these sort of, debates about things. Sometimes it doesn't really matter.
And in a lot of these debates I've learned, and I'm part of it too. I'm not going to blame one-sided.
I'm me.
But we get locked in on what we believe, and then we don't want someone to change our minds. And they're the same way. So to me, I would just say, hey, I'm glad you speak to your voice. I'm glad you're thinking. Let's go do something else,
Absolutely.
and I'm a big believer into I got a little short story is, um, I don't get upset on the things that I have no control over.
Hmm.
You have your body to control with the cancer and everything, and what you're
Yeah.
taking and not taking. Appendicitis, even though it happened, you still have control on what's going on, especially with surgeries and stuff today. But if someone says something I don't like about me, I have no control about their mouth. And
Yeah.
so I try not to. I'm not perfect. I do backfire every now and again, but I try to make it as little as possible. And one time, one of my little short stories. One time I was a school teacher for about 12 years, and we got a new principal in, and the new principal came in telling a bunch of stuff that we need to be doing in school. And I told some other teachers, said, I guarantee you that if she was back in the classroom, she would be upset. She wouldn't want to do what she's trying to force us to do. But I never got real mad or anything. One other teacher come up to me and said, aren't you mad about this? What do you, what? I said, I learned a long time ago. I had no control over it. My dad told me growing up, if your boss tells you to do something, you go do it, unless it's immoral or you're going to get hurt
Yeah.
physically, mentally, whatever. And then that's your battle to decide if you want to go after it.
Yeah.
But if it's not immoral, it's not breaking the law, it's not going to physically or mentally hurt you, your boss tells you to do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
That's the way I was brought up. So
That's right. It's you choose how you respond, isn't it? Most
yeah,
definitely.
exactly. So I said, I don't get upset because they told me. Again, if it's not hurting me, if that's what they
Mhm.
want, again, that's my boss. I'm supposed to do it.
Yeah.
I get my check that way. So, uh, well, all right, Louise. Well, I'm glad you made it to the other side and
Yes.
found
Thank you.
your way,
Yeah.
and definitely that you found your way, that you want to help people and found the life that you want
Yes.
during all this. And it's sad that sometimes we have to go through a big dog fight to find our way out. And
Absolutely.
and, and so and then again, it depends. I don't know if people are strong that get through the other end, for other people that go through similar situation and they just curl up and give up. So I don't know what's the difference between, because we're all basically built the same.
Mm.
And so it just, I guess, is our environment and how we're brought up and whatever. But I'm glad that you found your way, and I'm glad you're a fighter, and I'm
Yep.
glad you did the old perseverance thing. Ding, 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 ding. You got to give me a bell,
You got to
and
get a bell.
you got to give
Yeah.
me a bell. So, but I appreciate you hanging in and
Thank
again
you.
helping people. And so, hey, if you have a website or any social media you want to put out there for people to come find and talk to you or something?
Yeah, always welcome people to come and ask me any questions at all. So I've got my website, and which is my name, and so is my Instagram, and obviously you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
And go ahead and spell out your name for the people that are listening. And because
Okay,
I tell people to, if nothing else, do the old Google search.
absolutely, because my spelling on my surname is very different. So obviously Louise is Louise, and Macmillan is McMilan. So it's a bit like MC Milan. That's how you spell my surname.
All right, good. And so, and I'll go find some of these links and I'll put them in the show notes for make it easier for people to find you. But if anybody's listening, just again, go with her name, LOUISEMCM. You say it's ILAN.
Yeah.
And so, and then you can Google search. So, all right, Louise. So again, I'm glad you're here. One last thing I want to ask you. We know there's people hurting and struggling today. And if you can leave us with a powerful message to help us get through today, that'd be a blessing.
My go-to is always choose what nourishes you and not depletes you.
There you go. What's going to build you up, not knock you down. So,
Absolutely.
all right, awesome. Everybody else, hey, thank you for being here and listening and going from there. Be sure to share this out to someone you know can use a bit of inspiration, some motivation. Her story here of what came to her right after. I mean, just punching her and punching her, and here she is on the other end of the wind. So, everybody else, thank you for being here. I'm Dr. James Purdue, the Professor of Perseverance. Thank you for coming in on the Professor of Perseverance podcast. Do something today, tomorrow, something next week that's going to help you persevere past your paralysis.